Looks like we're live. Welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday evening, and it's time for our latest webisode. I'm Carmen Milagro. I'm a confidence strategist. I'm a consultant, a CBD educator, an entrepreneur, artist, and I'm your host for Confidence Strategies, which we usually air every third Tuesday of the month, but we save the best for last on this last Tuesday of this month because we're wrapping up. We're winding down and we're closing out our Women's History celebrations and highlights for 2021. So I'm very excited with our guest that I'm bringing you this evening because it just encapsulates this entire month of Women's History. I'm really glad that you're here with us live. Feel free to ask any questions during the interview. I'll try to highlight them. We'll try to answer them if we can. During these interviews, you will learn confidence strategies that help you level up, they help you pivot, they help you reinvent yourself, because what we want is to help you figure out ways to have a brighter future, bigger opportunities. Our guests share their personal stories, their passions, their challenges, their purpose in life. And that, in turn, I hope, inspires you and engages you and gives you ideas maybe on how to deal with some of the everyday obstacles and roadmaps that you've got to navigate. That's the purpose. We want to share in the triumphs, and we want everyone to flourish and shine together as a community. So I hope you'll be inspired and delighted and entertained as well as engaged. Tonight's webisode is sponsored in part by Music City, San Francisco. And our featured guest is a mom. She's a wife and a grandmother. Her name is Wandah Parenti. And here's a few things that you need to know about her before we start. She has a degree in business management. She's a California native. But her true passion is ministering to and mentoring women. Wandah's attended the Oakland Bible College, and she graduated from the Rock School of Ministry in Livermore, California. She's volunteered as a counselor and an educator for PACE, which is located in Pleasanton, I believe. And this is a program for post-abortive women at the Valley Pregnancy Center. Now, if that's not enough, she has also written a book called She Who the Sun Sets Free is Free Indeed. And she's one of Amazon's best-selling authors in the Christian business and personal growth arena. So I'm going to bring Wandah on. Wandah, welcome to the show. Thanks for spending your evening with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm really excited that you're here. We've talked about you. Were your ears ringing when your husband and your son were here on the show last year?
Yes. It doesn't seem like it. Wow, that was fast. That was really fast.
I know. It really, it's a family
I was still
affair.
writing at the time, maybe.
I think so. Well, congratulations on your book. We touched on this earlier. Like, how do you feel now that you wrote this book? And you said
relieved. Yes, very relieved. As I was sharing with you earlier, I knew a long time ago that I was going to write. God told me that a long time ago. I had enough affection for writing when I was 11 years old, 12 years old. And so I'd always been writing, whether it was journaling, poetry, lyrics to songs, things like that. But I knew that I was going to write a book. I just didn't know what it was going to be about. And I didn't know when I was going to do it because, of course, life happens, right?
right.
And so the book just gets further and further and further on the back burner. But I knew it was coming. So now that I've done it, I'm like, I can breathe. I can breathe.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I have a two-part question. We're just going to dive right into this. you're a busy lady, right? As I mentioned, you're a wife and a mom, and you're a Mimi to 7 grandchildren. I still find that hard to believe. I had to like read that twice on your bio sheet.
Oh
Like
my
what?
goodness. I know. I know. Yes.
Right.
I
So
have 7 beautiful grandchildren.
that's wonderful. Okay, so now we all know, most of us as women, we all know what being a wife, being, a mom, being a caretaker, being the family nurturer, all of that. And then you've got your grandchildren. So you've got a lot going on. So my
Yeah.
question is, oh, and you have your career and you volunteer as a counselor and you do all these other things. How did you manage to write the book? And what are some of your tips for women who think that they can't write a book because they too have all these other things going on in their life?
Right. So I thought initially that I had to get to a point where everything slowed down. Then I could write the book.
Right.
Right? I think that's what everybody thinks, well, I want to write a book. But when is that going to happen? Especially for your moms, for your working women, and your grandmothers,
Mhm.
and those who are doing it all at the same time. Like, when is that going to happen? For me, a couple of things. Um, One was I kind of started feeling like, you know what? It's never going to slow down. Life for me, it's never going to slow down. It would kind of be like if the world stopped spinning on its axis, what would happen? Right? So I just had to just continue doing everything that I was doing at the pace that I was doing it. And I just added the book in the mix. But here's the thing also. You know how everybody has their New Year's resolution, right? Uh, or something that's really common now is people have the word for the year for them.
Right.
My word, they'll say my word is in endurance, or it's peace, or it's you
Right.
know faith, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was intentional. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, and I'm a very spiritual being. And so God gave me the word intentional, and I was like, okay, I can work with intentional. Uh, that makes sense. I need everything that I am doing, everything that I'm thinking, everything that I'm about. It needs to be intentional. And then he woke me up in the middle of the night and said, this year, you're going to write the book. And I was like,
Now,
really?
you're not going to argue with this.
No. And I already had the word intentional, right? So I'm like, okay, so I got to get real intentional about everything that I'm doing, including that book.
Right.
And everything just lined up. Not maybe a week or two after that, I was introduced to a publisher.
Right.
And then it started from there. And I was like, God, you're serious. Like, this is going to happen this year. Absolutely.
Right.
Intentionally. It's going to happen.
Right.
And so I didn't have time to stop. And the funny
Right.
thing is, it was last year, 2020, we were in a pandemic. So I'm like,
That's a whole other slew of.
that's a whole, right? I'm like, really? But I didn't have time to slow down. I
Right.
couldn't slow down as a mom. I
Right.
couldn't slow down at work, even though I thought that it might slow down a little bit for me. I'm considered essential, right? In my field. So it actually got busier. So I said, okay, fine. It's going to happen. God said it was going to happen. And I decided, you know what? If he said it, it's going to happen. So I just put it in the mix with everything else, and I just did it. I could not allow things to stop, because just like if the world stopped spinning, that's what have happened, I think, if I had just stopped doing things.
Right. Right.
So,
Well, and
yeah.
I think there, again, as a writer, and you've written your book now, and you do all this other essential work. But words are so powerful. I mean, at the end of the day, there is such power in the words that we use, the words that we write, and the words that we use to define our calling, our path. So I think I really like that word intentional. I might have to. I have a project, as you know. I might have to use that word.
Yeah, yeah. The
Um,
word fueled the energy
yeah,
to
sure.
get it done. Yeah.
That totally makes sense to me. Now,
Mhm.
we know many women, most women, I would say,
Mhm.
are they're great multitaskers, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
but at the same time, because we're doing all these different things, I think a lot of times women sometimes struggle with their identity and their personal versus their professional identities.
Mhm.
How are you able to stay true to yourself while also at the same time being true to this new role that you added to your resume as a writer? Like, how did sometimes I feel like there's a lot of times where women deal with this imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And I'm
Mhm.
just wondering, like, how did you have your word intentional, but how
Mhm.
did you stay true to you in all of those roles?
That's a good question. And honestly, Carmen, I I am who I am. I am who I am professionally,
Hmm.
and I am the same person spiritually
Hmm.
in my ministry. I am the same as a grandmother and mother.
Yeah.
That doesn't change. I stay true to who I am. It's fluid, it's consistent,
Hmm.
it's intentional. It's
There's
all
that. You're
intentional.
back to it. You're back
Exactly.
to it, right?
Exactly. You get the same Wanda
Right.
in every role. That works for me. And I
Right.
understand I understand though that for some
Right.
um it may be hard. It may be a little bit harder. I
Right.
think though that oftentimes we're afraid, right? And we feel like we have to be one person at home, another person on the job, another person in our personal lives. Um, but that's when it gets hard.
That's a lot of
That's
juggling.
that's when it gets hard. Just be who you are in every arena. Just be you. Be
Right.
your authentic self. Because
Right.
I think personally, you end up become like a jack of all trades, but a master at none. Just be you.
Right.
You can master that
one
in
one would
every
think,
arena.
one would hope, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things, right, that we as women deal with on a day-to-day basis that is
Mhm.
specific to us.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of um, I don't see it in you, but I'm just saying, generally speaking, there's a lot of arenas where women step into it, and there's a lot of rejection, which leads to self-doubt, which leads to
Mhm.
confidence issues, right? And this is one of the things that it's what we
Yeah.
talk about on the show, right?
Yeah.
Did you, at some point, did you go through something like that process where you ask yourself, well, I have this intention. I'm writing this book. I know I'm doing it.
Hmm.
But is someone going to read it? Why would they read it? Did that was that part of your journey or not at all? I'm curious.
Well, because of my faith, which, already that probably might lump me in a whole other category, right?
Right.
Because not
Yeah.
everybody has that.
Right.
But because of my faith, um, I just believe God told me to do it, right? He was going to provide everything that I needed to be able to do it.
Hmm.
And I cannot say though, right? That while I was writing, I was like, is this going to appeal to everyone? Yeah, I did have those struggles.
Of course.
How, how are they going to perceive this? You know,
Right. Right.
when they read this, how are they going to view me?
Right.
um, but
But it didn't
I
stop you.
it didn't stop me
That's
because I
exactly
knew that it was something I had to do. And also, my desired outcome for this book was that people would be healed and they would gain some confidence,
right.
right?
Right.
They would be strengthened. They would get some peace. They would get some relief. They would be able to live free. That was my desired outcome. And so that became bigger than anything else. That became bigger than, oh, well, what are they going to think?
Right.
And what if they don't like this part?
Sure.
It's kind of like medicine, right? We oftentimes have to take medicine that we are not going to like, and it may have some funky side effects.
Right.
But if it's going to get rid of that thing that I needed to get rid of, we're going to do it.
Well, and I think there's also something, that is really key here because sometimes I feel like people mistake confidence, right? And they think, oh, well, she never has a doubt, or he never lets his vulnerability show. He's so super confident, or she's so sometimes, assertive, or whatever that people want to use. But I think what people forget is having confidence in yourself, by my definition, is in spite of that dialogue that we have inside our head. Because I don't know one single person in any arena that doesn't have some doubts about some things every once in a while. Like, we
Oh,
all
yes.
go through this.
Yeah.
But confidence to me is doing what you need to do in spite of it all.
That's
That
right.
to me is what the confidence, that's why I focus on that so much with the young people that I work with and other entrepreneurs and
Mhm.
that's why this whole webisode series was created, is all the different aspects of it.
Yeah, and one thing that I like to share. So
Yes.
it wasn't when I was writing, but this happened actually after the book had
Uh-huh.
been written and was out, right?
Uh-huh.
And for the most part, folks were giving great feedback, great reviews. But then I got that one bit of feedback.
Right.
And when you've like I said, I finished the book, I was relieved. And then you're getting the reviews and the compliments, and you're like, yeah, this is great. This is what I wanted.
Right.
But then there came that moment where I got that call and the feedback was not good.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was like, it just took that one text message, and I was like, oh, wow. So, in as much as I had all that confidence, um,
Right.
that one text message kind of ma- put me in that that area of doubt.
Right.
Wow. Okay. And then to the point, you start having those conversations with yourself,
Sure.
and you start asking yourself, well, did it come off that way? Or should I have not done that way?
Right.
And before you know it, you're in this, you're spiraling.
Right.
And
The
I
spiral
finally,
of doom.
yeah, yeah. And I finally had to say, okay, stop. And what I do is I reverse the self-talk. I stop this and I start doing this. Oh, but wait, but wait, but wait,
Right.
but wait.
Right.
Yeah, I reverse it and I start saying, you know what? I think back to the desired outcome. I think back to my own intentions, right?
Right.
And then I also know that it's not going to be for everybody, and that's okay.
Right.
That doesn't mean that what you did wasn't the right thing to do.
Correct.
What you said wasn't the right thing to say. Everybody's not going to love it.
Right.
And that's okay.
Exactly.
That's
And you just
okay.
spoke the words of an artist, right? A musician, a
Right.
painter. Like that's one thing that I know we artistic creative beings learn pretty quickly, like early on in life,
Yeah.
is your artwork is not going to please everyone. Your
Right.
song that you put your heart and soul into it is not going to resonate with everyone.
That's right.
So, but that doesn't mean that it still doesn't, it still gets you. It's still like you
Oh
said, one text, right? To like you're up here, you're riding high, you're feeling good. You accomplish something that not very many people accomplish, and yet one text
yeah.
from
Yeah.
one person kind of makes you slide a little bit.
Yeah.
But, but that's life, right?
It
That's I
is.
mean, it happens. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, when you get through that process, you figure out they're entitled to their opinion.
That's right.
They're
That's
entitled not to like the book or the song or the band, what they're entitled. And
yeah.
that's
They
okay.
are totally entitled, and it's okay.
Exactly.
You
As
have to
long
get
as
to
it
a
does,
place where you're okay with that.
yeah. And
Yeah.
as long as it doesn't stop you from doing what you need to do,
Right.
right? So
Right.
I just wanted really quickly, thank you so much. I wanted everyone to see the book.
Thank you.
I just, and we're gonna give everyone the place where they can get it, where they can get in contact with you and everything. But when you wrote this book, I mean, I haven't finished it. I did kind of peek, I did start reading it, and it seems from what I've already read and gathered, you share some very deeply personal moments and snapshots of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Was there one particular area that you wrote about in your book that you wish that you hadn't? And I don't mean because of someone's opinion. I just mean, is there anything that you put into the book that you have writer's remorse about?
No.
I love it.
No.
I
No.
love the fact I suspected that would be your answer, and I'm so glad.
Yeah, no. I was very strategic,
Mhm.
but I was very intentional
Right.
about what I was writing. And I would say, you know, again, I had to think about the thing. I'll put it this. I'll share it this way. In my circle of friends, my circle of women,
Uh-huh.
we talk about a lot of things.
Sure.
Uh, I realized that we we scratch the surface on a lot of things that we never really go deep. And I love I've the best circle of friends ever. Love, love, love them.
Right.
Um, but sometimes after we've been together and we've shared and we've
Yeah.
laughed and we've cried over some things and
Yeah.
we've shared a meal, things like that. Sometimes you're still walking away uh, with that knot in your stomach, or with that emptiness, or with that burning sensation. Like I needed to talk about that, but I just couldn't. So something that
Sure.
I took with me to that particular experience,
Yeah.
and I wanted to share, I took it back because I couldn't do it. Because oftentimes, and I don't know if this has ever been your experience, but as women, we just don't go that deep with one another for many reasons. Um, and so I said, you know what? That's got to change. I feel like they know me, but they don't really know me. I feel like I know them, but I probably don't really know them, um, because we don't go deep. We just scratch the surface. We stay where it's comfortable. Um, and so I started going a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was going to, I started to see that, you know, it wasn't just me that was in pain or had experienced some painful things.
Right.
Many of us has experienced some painful things. And I, even now, and I become more free every single day, right? The book wasn't just to heal others, it was also to continue to heal me and to
I was,
strengthen me,
yes.
right?
I was going to
But
say,
I,
what did you get out of it? Yep.
yeah,
Perfect.
and so, but I wanted that for my circle,
Right.
and then I wanted that for all women,
Right.
I wanted all women to experience that. So, with that said, no, everything that I wrote about needed to be written about, it needed to be said. Um, Not just for me, not even now for my circle, but for all women.
Right.
They need to know that, you know what? It's okay. We all go through stuff. Yours might be completely different from mine, but we can all have the same outcome. We
Sure.
can all get through it. We can get through it together. And we can live free in Christ. If He's not judging you, if He's not looking down and pointing His finger, and no one else, they can try it.
Right. And they
And,
do.
and they do try it.
And they do.
And they do. You're absolutely right.
Right.
But you can overcome that, So to
No,
answer your question, everything I wrote, I wouldn't change a single word.
that's wonderful. There is this sense I get from you, and of course, I don't know you. Like, well, I was thinking about what you were saying. Like, I know you. I've been to your house. I mean, I know your husband and your son. But you're right. Like, and you, I was thinking as you were talking about that aspect. It goes back to we're all so busy all the time
Hmm.
that even when we're taking time out for ourselves, oh, we're going to spend some time with my girlfriends. Like, this is going to be my me time. This is
Right.
I need this. I want, but sometimes we spend years with a friend, but we realize, like you said, that we never went deep enough. And then when at least in my experience, I had this one particular situation where I needed to go deeper. I just wanted that, but
Yeah.
our friendship didn't survive that.
Yeah.
Sad to say, it breaks my heart, but that's the reality. And I thought, wow, that's how thin that layer was that we
Hmm.
thought we knew each other, and it
Yeah.
didn't survive going deep. And that's part of my journey. I needed to do that. I wouldn't, like yourself, I wouldn't take that back. I wouldn't change it.
Right.
But it did show me something. Like, not everyone is able to or willing
Right.
to go to those deeper levels. And so at this age for me, I figured out I want to be surrounded by people that I can go deep with, that it's not a
Right.
superficial thing. That's important to me. So
Right.
that's what I'm
Right.
carving out for myself.
Yeah.
Um, when you talk about you mentioned something in our email thread. You you talk about choosing faith over fear. What do you
Hmm.
mean by that?
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question. um, it's interesting because we think that for some people it's almost easier to be afraid of something, right? To then to believe that than to believe the opposite of what your fear is telling you. And that just blows my mind. And I've lived in fear for years, lived
Mhm.
in fear. And it becomes almost like comforting to us. We're more afraid to have faith that things are going to work out, or that that awful thing is not going to happen. Um, and we live comfortably with the fear that, oh, you
It's
know,
what you know.
exactly.
Mhm.
Uh, However, the Word of God says all you need is the faith of a mustard seed. That's it. That's it. You just need the faith the size of a mustard seed. And have you ever seen a mustard seed? It's
I have.
If I took off my glasses, I would not be able to see one.
Right.
Right? It's tinier than an ant, I believe. And then that's all we need. And then God adds his faith to that. But it's just so hard to do. It's so hard to do. We'd rather just hold on to our fear. If you ever just try it, what, because really, what have you got to lose? You're already living in fear. You've already convinced yourself of the worst possible scenario and outcome,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But if you ever just try to have faith the size of a mustard seed, and allow yourself to see what God will do with that, you will never choose fear again. You will be like, oh my God, like, what have I been doing? And so, for me, I mean, it's when you live in fear, that's torment. There's nothing free about that. You are bound by your fear. You're limited by your fear. I can't, that's not living. That's not living. So that's what I mean by I'd rather have the faith the size of a mustard seed and let God add his faith to that. And I, excuse me, I'd rather live and be free. They can have fear. I
Hence the
can't do
title
that.
of your book.
Exactly. The title of the book.
That says it all.
And it's like once you go there, you won't go back. You won't go back.
I can see you on stages. I can see you, like, if this is part of what the counseling that you do, I suspect that they are very, very lucky, those who get you as a counselor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What strategies, speaking of, some of this work that you do, and writing this book, your intention is to help other people.
Hmm.
um, what are some of the strategies that you suggest, beside, like, having faith? Like, that seems to be the number one thing, but another strategy to add to that, is there like a formula that maybe step one, two, three, have faith, and then step two is.
I would say the first thing, even before you get to the faith part,
Mhm.
because that's not an easy
No,
step.
no,
So if
it's
i
not.
if i made it sound easy, not. But the
We have a
first step,
disclaimer.
yes, not easy. I'm not saying that
It
it's
takes a lot
easy.
of work.
Yeah, I'm 54, and yeah, like I say in the book, I'm not saying this as one who has totally arrived. it's
Right,
it's a lifestyle. It's
right.
something that I do daily. But the first step, if you can get this under your belt, um, you're heading in the right direction. The first step is to make the choice, to make the choice to want to do whatever it is that you want to do, to make the choice to want to live a certain way. If you want to live free, make that decision first. Sometimes we just vacillate back and forth. We can't even make the choice to do it. And for me, I got so tired of how I was feeling, the
Sure.
way that I was not living, right?
Hmm.
That I said, you know what? I drew a line in the sand. I said, today is the day that I make the choice to, like in politics, I think they say reclaim their time. I made the choice to reclaim my life. I made the choice to live and to live free. So if you can make that choice, that's the first and biggest step of the rest of your life.
I love that. We're going to have to put that in the comments. So you're going to have to type that in. If nothing else, if you've got nothing else out of this conversation that we're having today, perhaps that step one that you just heard from Wandah, perhaps that might be the start of a new beginning for you with whatever it is that you're struggling with. I have another question for you, Wandah. As you were talking, I was thinking about what does self-confidence mean to you? Like, how do you define it for yourself? And what advice would you give to someone who wants to feel that way? We've talked about faith. We've talked about making the choice.
Mm-hmm.
Is there another component? I feel like there's a trilogy, if you will.
I think accepting who you are and loving yourself. Accepting and loving yourself, even right where you are.
Sure.
You might be at what you think is your lowest. Um, accept that. Accept. I'm at my lowest right now, right? I may not be the happiest or nicest person in the world. Accept that about yourself. That's your authentic self at the time. Accept yourself. Love yourself enough to want to grow yourself into your future self.
Because you made that choice,
Right.
hopefully. After acceptance comes the choice
Mm-hmm.
and then faith
That's right.
that you're going to follow through.
That's right.
I
And that
like it.
you'll get there.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like it. It's concise. It makes, it's very easy to wrap your head around this. Now, like you said, and we talked about earlier, it doesn't mean that it's easy.
Right.
None of this actually is really that. It requires a lot. It requires commitment.
Mm-hmm.
It's really no different than starting a new career,
Right.
starting a band. Like all of these things that we're talking about, we're breaking it down,
Mm-hmm.
but it requires you doing the work.
Yeah, it requires you doing something, like most things, even, if you're losing weight, right? You can't just sit there and think,
Snap
oh
your fingers. I
it's
wish
just
that
gonna
were
fall
true.
off of me. Yeah, me too.
I
We
would
all
take it.
we gotta do we gotta do the work.
Right,
We
right.
gotta do the work. But rather than call it work, I call
Mhm.
it a lifestyle.
Yeah, I like
It
that.
has to become your lifestyle. This
Mhm,
is what I do every single day.
mhm.
Before I go and commit to the job and I commit to me.
Right,
I commit to me.
because you're worth it.
Absolutely, we are. That's right.
Before we go into what I call the quick draw, I want to make sure that we get people the information on how to get a hold of you. Where can they buy your book? I just want to make sure that we don't forget that. I'm so afraid I'm going to forget that.
Okay, so you can purchase the book on Amazon.com. She who the sun sets free is free indeed. You can also purchase the book at barnesandnobles.com. You can purchase the book at leadershipbookstore.com. You can also contact me and I will be happy to send you a book or as many books as you like.
Correct.
And you can reach me at Wandah Parenti Author on Instagram, Facebook as well.
Excellent. And would you mind putting it on our confidence strategies in the comments section? If you type it in
Absolutely.
there, then it'll live there, and you are
Yes.
welcome to engage with. anyone who's, also making comments and is going to view this later on. This is live now, but we live on YouTube. So, we always appreciate that. We like having that engagement in the comments, and hopefully we are giving you some new ideas on how to think about things. So, Wandah, this part of the program is kind of the fun, what I like to call, this is clearly nothing about this. There's no pressure, but this is the quick draw. So I have a series of questions. I'm going to just pick a few random questions, and you just answer with whatever comes to your mind, just top of your head.
Okay.
No processing. No, we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens.
I'm a thinker, so
I
hopefully
know.
yeah, okay.
So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
And
we'll
who knows,
see how it goes.
you might if you could take your story outside of the US and share it, where's the place that you would want to just go immediately right now, if we were able to, all travel existence back in place. If you were able to take this message from your book and just transport yourself to another country, where would that be? And why?
I would say I would go to Africa because there are many struggles for women in Africa. Or India. These are places where women's voices have been taken away. They don't feel like they have a voice, and many of them suffer in silence. So I would love to take my book there and share with them to help them believe that yes, you do have a voice and you can be free. Your voice can be free. You can be free. Yes.
What is living for the approval of one?
Living for the approval of one is the ultimate freedom. Especially, and I'm not saying men, please. I'm not, against men. But definitely women, we are people pleasers, I think, more than any other species. And that's hard. It's hard to wake up every day with an agenda to make sure that you get everything always right for everyone. And then discovering at the end of the day that most of it was all for naught, because most people really don't care. They want you to think that they do, but they really do. And even if they did, does it really, really matter? What significance, what bearing does that really have on you? So for me, there is only one who can really, I want to make sure that I say this right. There's only one whose opinion really, really matters. Matters, right? Like, get it right. And so I know that if I please that one, then really I should be pleasing many. And that's just by default. But as we know, everybody's not going to be pleased. And I'm okay with that as long as the one that matters is satisfied and approves of me. That's what I meant by that.
I like that. I just wanted to shout out, thank you, Dr. Katarina, for tuning in tonight. She said that your message has touched her. So,
thank you.
It's really, really incredible. We were talking earlier about words and the power of words. What word do you absolutely loathe?
Oh, gosh, there's so many. Failure.
Ooh, that's a good one. And why is that?
I think that it hinders so many people. So many people get stuck because of the word failure. They don't want to look as if they're a failure. They don't want to fail in this. They don't want to fail in that. And sometimes the word itself keeps you from making a choice to respond, to act, to do anything. Um, I just had this conversation with my son yesterday. Uh, he was feeling as if he had failed, right? He
Oh,
was feeling like a failure.
oh,
And I said, but you tried. You tried. And that in and of itself cancels out a failure.
right. Exactly.
Just remove it from your vocabulary. You are not a failure. That's quite the opposite of what God says about you. So that would
I
be the
thank you. I really, really love this example that you just gave because I just talked about this right before we started our live. I was on a panel. I love working with young people and I love working with young startup entrepreneurs on any level. And this group, I was on the panel and we talked about the word failure.
Mhm.
And I said, not verbatim, but I said very similar to what you just told your son. I said, remove that word
Mhm.
and pretend it never existed. Because even when something doesn't have the end result that you were hoping for or that you were working towards,
Right.
you still learn something in that process, number one. And number two, you still took action towards that
Right.
goal that you set for yourself or that you're trying to meet.
That's
And
right.
so to me, failure doesn't exist when you look at things from those perspectives.
That's
So
right.
it's really lovely to hear you also, echo what I just said an hour ago.
Yes. Great minds.
That's right. That's right. Okay. I've got one more question for you.
Okay.
What would you say is your go-to advice for living your best confident life?
What's my go-to advice?
So
My
we have
best
a
go.
nice little message for you.
I
Hi, Daniel.
thank you, Daniel. I'm glad you think so.
So
um,
sweet. I'm going to take a screenshot for you.
yes, I think. Oh, that's it's hard to choose just one, but make the decision, make the choice to do that, to live your best confident life. I would say also um, speak those things that are not as though they were, and don't just speak them. Live it. Begin to live your best confident life. Don't just
Half the
speak it.
battle.
Don't just speak it into existence. Live it every day. Get up every day and live that life.
That's a good one. Don't just speak it into existence, live it.
Live it
Live your
into
best
existence.
life.
That's right.
I love this. I think that is the perfect, you just wrapped it up so nicely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. This
I'm
has been
so
fun.
happy. Yes, it has. I wanted it to just be casual and fun. And, so you are just such a lovely, wonderful guest. It's so nice to see you under these circumstances, too. I
Great to
don't get to
see
see that many
you.
people.
I know. But hopefully, we're all going to
Hopefully
be able
soon.
to see
Hopefully
one another
soon.
in person soon.
That's right. That's right. Well,
Yes,
thank you. Say hi to your family.
I
And
will.
again, for those that may have missed it in the middle portion of this, where can they contact you? Where can they get your book?
DM me at Wandah Parenti, author, Instagram, Facebook. You can get the book on Amazon.com, AmazonOnline.com, I think, or Amazon.com and BarnesandNobles.com and LeadershipBookstore.com.
Great. Thank you. I think we have another shout out. Tina says, be authentic and transparent, which I
That's
think
right.
are
That's
just
right.
exactly that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tina, for tuning in. Oh, there she goes.
Thank you. Thank you.
We really appreciate this, and we hope that we were able to, to touch your heart and maybe, just maybe, that switch in your mind. It's all connected, right?
Yes, it
And
is.
so, yeah, I thank you. Thank you again for spending this time with me, and we'll have to have you come back.
Definitely.
I would love a whole
anytime.
Thank you so much, Wanda, and thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you every time that you join us. We do want to try to share some insights and information with you. And I think for me, I'm going to really kind of borrow that word from Wanda. This word intentional really resonated with me today on so many different levels. So I hope you find your word too. You're going to join us hopefully next month. I have a special guest coming in on April 20th. You'll get a chance to meet and interact with Mr. Marcus Bellringer Bell. He is an American music producer, a songwriter. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He's a singer. He's a social media influencer. He's an activist and an entrepreneur. And he's worked with some artists such as Nicki Minaj, Snoop Dogg, and just a whole slew of other artists. So I want to thank you all for spending this time with me tonight. And to know that we have your continued support is really important. I hope you'll like and share and comment on our YouTube channel and on our Confidence Strategies Facebook page. And I want you to just live your best life, make that choice and stay healthy and safe. And we'll continue to evolve and flourish together. That's my intention. And thank you for being a part of that journey with me. Thank you to my guest, Wandah Parenti, author. And you must check out her book. I know what I'm going to be doing these next few nights. So make sure you check this out. And I think that it will change your life. I have this sense. Thank you again. Have a great evening, everyone. And we'll see you next month, April 20th, 7 o'clock. Bye-bye.